from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on Ag Day, are moods changing in farm country? We'll look at the latest equipment buying trends, and in agribusiness, looking at cattle markets.
Right now, the feedlots kind of have the upper hand, and packers are a little bit short bought.
We'll check on the latest dairy news and a message from Texas about our food.
Ag Day, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The ag industry seeing several positive storylines last week, helping to raise moods in farm country. From rising soybean prices to an improved rural Main Street index, optimism for 2018 is growing. Now, according to the Association of Equipment Manufacturers monthly flash report, January U.S. sales of tractors rose 4% compared to a year ago, and four-wheel drive tractors jumped 21% higher, while combine sales were also up. Tyne Morgan was at the National Farm Machinery Show last week and has more on the moods of equipment makers in the new year.
The start of 2018 shows a changing of tides for the U.S. equipment market.
You know, the used equipment seems to be coming back. The last few years we hit the lull, I felt like, and we started seeing it in harvest last year of the comeback of used equipment.
It's better than expected sales of planters, sprayers, and tractors playing out on this John Deere dealer lot.
But it seems like the older OT series tractors or the older tractors are the ones that their value has just gone through the roof.
Deere & Company's latest earnings report showing a 23% jump in sales for the first quarter of the year, and the company now forecasting a nearly 30% increase in equipment sales for 2018. Looking at just ag equipment, John Deere expects a 10% bump in both the U.S. and Canada.
I thought we were still maybe 12 months out, and they're coming back a little sooner than I thought.
While Ag Power says combine sales are lagging, nationwide, Deere says more people are coming to the market to buy.
People were already considering that now might be the time to jump into a new combine, and having a new model combine with new technology has really helped people make that confident decision to buy new for 18.
The Association of Equipment Manufacturers revealing a similar trend. The latest flash report showing an 11.7% jump in combine sales in January. And companies like Case IH are also experiencing that trend.
We take a look at producers looking at their combine that they maybe have not traded based on the last 2 to 3 years. What we have seen is that uptick, or customers now with the number of hours on the machine, they want that maximum uptime, durability, reliability. So they've actually come in and actually replaced that machine, or they're thinking about replacing that machine.
Bo says some producers are still opting out on making big purchases.
We knew that producers are getting to the point where they were going to have to make some tough decisions, whether it was, actually replacing the internal components of that machine, or then looking at some of the new features.
New features like a narrow row corn head, catering to the farmers choosing to go with 20-inch rows, as agronomic decisions start to drive purchasing decisions.
Traditionally wheels is the way many folks went, and then it went to 2 tracks, and now many folks are looking at like our 9RX narrow and our wide to really think about how the agronomic impact of those units can really help their operation.
AGCO says there are 2 main sectors that continue to build momentum for the company, the commercial hay and the application side.
Part of that is being driven by some of the new products that we've introduced, but also some of the issues that our customers are facing out there today.
Webster says it's not just ag retailers coming to the market to buy, but the increase in cotton acres is also translating into more sprayer sales. There's also excitement in the hay market as hay exports are exploding.
And that's good news for our commercial hay business, because a lot of our customers are exporting the product.
AGCO just introduced a new ultra-high density baler. Pictured here is a car that was crushed into the size of a hay bale. And Webster says it's proof of how the new technology can make bales more cost-effective to ship.
Increased efficiency is from bale density, and it's also critical that you can maintain consistency in bale length. If you have a bale that is 6 inches, 3 inches too long, 6 inches, you can't get the doors closed on the container.
From hay equipment to tractor sales, the storyline of equipment purchases is changing.
we feel like machinery sales are going to keep ticking up. I mean, I don't want to say that we're going to hit that bell curve and take off, but I do feel like planters and sprayer sales are really strong right now.
And Plattner projects that it will take another harvest to clean up the excess combines on this lot, but he says he's optimistic that the sky is the limit in 2018. Reporting from the National Farm Machinery Show in Louisville, Kentucky, I'm Tyne Morgan.
Machinery makers are watching last Friday's announcement from the Commerce Department as it laid out several options for President Donald Trump to consider, including a tariff of at least 24% on steel imports from all countries. China warning it might retaliate if the U.S. imposes metal tariffs. The president also risking alienating U.S. industries that either rely on steel and aluminum as inputs or are worried about retaliation, like the ag industry. U.S. cattlemen haven't seen retaliatory tariffs yet and hope to stay out of the fray.
Right now, we haven't seen any ramifications of some of these USTR and WTO cases that have been filed against China. So that's a good sign, but could it have some implications down the road? Possibly. So we have to watch that very closely.
Woodall says it may take some time for the U.S. beef industry to regain consumers' confidence in China, since the U.S. hasn't exported beef to that country in over a decade. Now, also on trade, the Trans-Pacific Partnership isn't quite a done deal. Canadian trade leaders say they won't ratify the trade pact until fall. Meanwhile, some GOP senators are urging President Trump to rejoin TPP. The president pulled the U.S. out of the deal shortly after becoming president, but recently said he would consider rejoining the pact if it could be improved substantially. And on the NAFTA front, renegotiations start next week. The trilateral deal is just one of the topics President Trump will discuss with the president of Mexico. The two are set to meet in a couple of weeks. Now, Bloomberg says they plan to discuss the relationship between the two countries and several pending issues like NAFTA. For ag, a lot is riding on NAFTA. It's a market of big buyers for U.S. farmers and ranchers.
When I talk about 16 to 17 billion pounds being exported, 5 billion pounds of that is going to Canada and Mexico. And so of our exports, all three proteins combined, about a third of it is going to those NAFTA trade partners.
And a judge in Arkansas tossing a Monsanto dicamba lawsuit. Monsanto's suit to block the Arkansas Plant Board from banning the use of dicamba in warm months was tossed out by a county circuit court judge based on an Arkansas Supreme Court ruling that makes it hard to sue a state agency. Monsanto says they are disappointed in the court's decision to dismiss the legal challenge of the plant board's restrictions, and they're considering additional legal steps that might be appropriate. The Arkansas Plant Board voted last year to prohibit the use of dicamba from April 16th through October 31st in a bid to prevent spray drift from damaging other crops. Mike Hoffman joining us now to look at today's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. Even though this picture of the Oklahoma Panhandle sunset looks pretty, growers say they are in desperate need of rain. Brad Lyle from near Guyman, Oklahoma, says the area is going on 130 days with no moisture. A few fires have been occurring recently as well. That area is red on the drought monitor. The latest monitor says 100% of Oklahoma is under at least some type of drought. Almost 38% is considered extreme. And our next picture comes from Betsy Gibbons' parents in southeastern South Dakota. Betsy's niece Zeta is hanging out with her grandpa and grandma at the cattle auction. We may have a future reporter on our hands. She's taking notes from the sale barn. And taking a look at the weather map today, the wind speed forecast showing from the lower lakes, Ohio Valley, right on into Arkansas and Oklahoma. A little bit on the windy side, and that'll continue really off and on through the day. It also picks up in parts of New Mexico. Checking out tomorrow, you can see it's not quite as windy a day, but a lot of it will be southern plains into the northeast as we head through the daytime hours. Now, we'll be taking a look at your forecast coming up in just a few minutes, but first here are some hometown temps.
Ag Day, brought to you by the Enlist Weed Control System. More weed control, less drift and volatility, maximum yield potential.
All right, when we come back, we'll check in on cattle markets and later a message about our food from the Texas Farm Bureau. Markets were closed Monday due to the President's Day holiday, but once they do reopen, we'll continue to watch for strength in the cattle trade. Tyne Morgan has more from the road.
Here now with Chip Nellinger of Blue Reef Agri-Marketing. Chip, looking at this growing cattle herd, when I talked to you last, you thought we would see these favorable prices through spring. Knowing what we know now on exact numbers, what are your thoughts on these cattle prices?
Well, it hasn't changed much. We know we've kind of got this window here where there's a little bit of a hole. Demand is really, really strong. Right now, the feedlots kind of have the upper hand, and packers are a little bit short bought. So for the time being, that's really helping us out and giving us a chance to rally. But the issue is that everybody knows the last 5 or 6 cattle on feed reports, big numbers, they're out ahead of us this summer and into fall. And, that's going to hold us back a little bit. So we're going to have to, really sharpen our pencil on these deferreds. From the June on, it's going to get really dicey.
So you think that's when we start to see some pressured prices?
Yeah, I think that you could, for sure by, say, May. Typically, as you get into this March time frame, you have some tailwinds from better box beef prices and a seasonal surge higher in cash. I think we can see that still. But once that window passes us, I'm not saying we're going to drop like a rock, but there's really going to be some headwinds with those big numbers coming. Even
if these demand numbers stay where they are?
Well, it's definitely helping, and the drop in the dollar, I think, will help that. But yes, I think that's the fear in the marketplace. And again, it doesn't mean that we have to just fall apart, but it probably means we're not going to have a chance, or as good a chance, to push up into the 130s and north on these deferreds like the June and the August.
All right, Chip, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We need to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with a check of weather here on Ag Day.
Farming has changed. Markets are riskier than ever. For customized, focused commodity marketing, contact Chip Nellinger or Adam Dreyer at 309-550-7213.
Uh-oh. Welcome back to Ag Day. Your meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, it's that time of year where we start to really pay attention to what's happening precipitation-wise, and it seems like the haves and have-nots.
Places that need it aren't going to get it. Places that don't necessarily need it going to get probably too much of it. Basically, this morning we have a stream of moisture from eastern Texas all the way through the Great Lakes into the northeast, producing a lot of rain, and it's not going to move a lot over the next 24 hours, but let's put the maps into motion. It does sneak its way eastward a little bit, but you can still see by later today it's northeast Texas on up into the Great Lakes, into the northeast. The snow across the northern plains comes to an end as high pressure builds in. This western system really just diving down the coast with the pattern, as you'll see in the jet stream coming up. That's not coming inland anytime soon. And you can see by tomorrow morning we still have moisture from eastern Texas into the eastern Great Lakes and into the northeast. And by later in the day, it does finally start to move eastward. It's mainly Louisiana, southeast Texas, and the northern Mississippi on up that system. A little bit of snow in the higher elevations out west and a little bit of rain along the coast. But here's the precipitation estimate over the past 24 hours. We've already seen 2 to 3 inch amounts, lower lakes, back into parts of the Mississippi River Valley. Adding in the next 36 hours, our computer model actually puts down 8 or 9 inches in central portions of Arkansas, with heavy amounts really up and down that area from eastern Texas all the way into the lower Great Lakes. Some of those areas definitely going to have flooding, especially where the ground is frozen. Snowfall estimates past 24 hours, mainly from central Colorado into the northern plains, and that's about where we're going to add a little bit more. We'll add some more also in parts of the western portions, higher elevations of Oregon and northern California. Look at the difference in temperatures this afternoon. Single digits, northern plains, 80 by the time you get to Louisiana and South Texas. Low temperatures tonight. You can just kind of see that cold front moving, dropping right along the front, but minus 10, minus 12 in the northern plains, staying in the 70s along the Gulf Coast, and we have more of the same tomorrow, although the front does continue to push southeastward, all because of the jet stream. Big ridge over the southeast, trough out west. We keep seeing pieces of energy diving in out west, so it looks like our overall pattern is kind of staying the same as we head into next week. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. First of all, Cedar City, Utah, good deal of sunshine and cold, high of 29 degrees. Aberdeen, South Dakota, very cold with light snow, high of only 11, low of -15, by the way. Richmond, Indiana, windy and warm, maybe a shower or thunder shower, high of 70.
Now, the Congress made changes to the margin protection program should dairy producers take another look. We'll talk about it next on our Dairy Report. And later, a message from Texas farmers and ranchers about the food they grow.
Ag Day, brought to you by Top Third Ag Marketing. Farmer first with a plan for every market.
In the Dairy Report, it appears Congress changes to the revised Dairy Margin Protection Program, also known as MPP, could be worth a second look. According to a paper from two academics, smaller producers could see some risk management improvements due to reduced premiums, new monthly calculations, and weak milk future prices in 2018. Now, the two say it's much more likely margin payments will be triggered in time of low volatile milk prices. And speaking of prices and production, our partners at Milk Magazine saying Europe is pushing surplus supplies onto the world market. The U.S. Dairy Export Council writing that the world dairy demand can only support milk production growth from the major exporters of about 1.5% a year. Now, in the second half of 2017, the growth rate from the EU 28, United States, New Zealand, and Australia, plus Argentina, was about double that. But the Export Council says nearly all of that surplus growth is coming from Europe. Modest production growth, around 1%, is expected in the U.S. for 2018. U.S. immigration reform is sputtering in Washington at best. That's according to Washington watchers. The Senate appearing to be at a stalemate, failing to agree on several iterations last week. Meanwhile, in the House, Republican leaders are trying to garner support for its own legislation. While a more comprehensive bill, the House measure does not yet have enough support to pass. And even if it does, analysts say it's unlikely to get a vote in the Senate. When we come back, the politics of food and an answer from Texas farmers and ranchers about the work they do.
Ag Day, brought to you by Instinct and N-Serve nitrogen stabilizers. They don't just stabilize nitrogen, they maximize it, so crops deliver the max in return. Learn more at maxinmaxout.com. In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. Tractors, hay tools, utility vehicles, mowers, and more. Visit KubotaUSA.com today.
Food is a great advantage for our country. It's abundant and plentiful, and yet there are so many disagreements around what we eat. Today, the Texas Farm Bureau has released a video called Our Food. We're in this together. Take a watch.
I'm a farmer. I'm a rancher.
I'm a parent, a spouse,
community leader, friend,
and consumer.
My passion is to grow food and fiber that's safe,
healthy, wholesome, and affordable for your family.
And for mine. I'm not going to tell you what to eat.
I'll grow what you want to eat.
But we don't think your food should be a political statement.
It shouldn't be about furthering an agenda or spreading fear and misinformation.
It's too important for that. When someone tries to scare you with stories about your food, it's time to ask questions.
To separate truth from fiction.
Our family has been growing food for your family for generations.
I care for the environment, the soil, and the water. It's my life.
Today's farming techniques means I use less.
Less water, fewer chemicals, less fuel.
Smaller carbon footprints. Modern agriculture is the essence of sustainability.
What we do on this land means jobs for America.
It means safety, security, and a strong economy.
Growing our own food makes us more secure.
You can have your food however you want it.
Organic or conventional.
From a farmer's market to a modern-day grocery store.
All equally healthy and just as safe.
Now that's freedom.
My family lives here on the land.
They eat what we grow.
We wouldn't feed you something we wouldn't feed our kids.
It's my livelihood.
It's my dream.
But it's our food. I farm for my family.
And for yours.
I'm a farmer.
I'm a rancher.
I face adversity just like you.
We have a connection, you and I.
We're connected by our food.
If you want to know more, Just ask me.
We're in this together.
A message from the Texas Farm Bureau to start off your morning. That's all of our time today. We're glad you tuned in, spent part of your morning with us. For Mike Hoffman and Tyne Morgan, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
Ag Day, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest-lasting heavy-duty pickups.